Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to this Kennedy Caucus Room, named not only for my late great father, but my uncles Robert Kennedy, who represented the state of New York, and my uncle John F. Kennedy, who is most noted for being President of the United States, but was also a member of this esteemed institution. This is the Kennedy Caucus Room, and many historic events have taken place here. Many historic debates have started here. And today, in continuing that tradition, I'm honored to be moderator of a panel of experts in an area that is of great national interest, not only to the United States, but great international interest to the people around the world. Of course, today we're here to discuss the proposed nuclear agreement between the United States and the other powers with the mullahs in Tehran. And we're joined by none other than America's first mayor during the attack on 9/11 on the city of New York. New York became America's city, and Mayor Giuliani, America's mayor. So as we begin this program, I'd like to first set the context for it. Some may say this is simply about discussing the agreement itself, whether it's a justified agreement, whether it has strengths, what those strengths are, maybe what the weaknesses are as well. But I'd like us to step back for a moment and think of a broader context that brings us here today. Because what I think is underlying the discussion that we're going to hear today about the nuclear deal, so to speak, is a much broader issue that has to do with politics, yes, but most importantly, it has to do with human rights and the United States' position internationally in respecting the rule of law, and the United States' position internationally in upholding the principles upon which this nation was founded. The principles of democracy and freedom that underlie and should underlie all of our policies, both domestically and internationally. Of course, what I am referring to is the humanitarian crisis within Iran, and that humanitarian crisis is perpetrated by a brutal theocracy bent on imposing their brutal will upon the people of Iran and upon peoples all around the world. That is why Iran has become to be known as the largest sponsor of state-exported terrorism. That is why we are joined today by those who have been fighting for the liberation of their country of ancestry. It is being played out in the struggles of the most defiant and human rights-seeking organization of people, and those are the standard bearers for freedom, fighters for democracy. This time, democracy in Iran. And that is what brings us here today, is that the fight for freedom and the fight for democracy by the people of Camp Liberty and Ashraf is really a universal fight for democracy and freedom. And that is why the United States made a pledge in the conclusion of the Iraq War to make sure that the United States would stand by these dissidents. And the United States made a promise to these dissidents that they would be protected, not only by the United States, but by international law. The Fourth Geneva Convention. Imagine a great country such as ours who are fighting for freedom, but is also in defiance of our obligations under international law to see to it that those asylum seekers, refugees in Camp Liberty are resettled and protected once and for all. But I want to tell you what's behind the energy to ensure that that agreement get the proper discussion and debate. What's behind that is a passion by many Iranians throughout the world who want to see their homeland liberated. In the height of the Cold War, in fact, John F. Kennedy really articulated in the most clear-cut way what was at stake when he spoke in Berlin during a time of great crisis as to whether the United States was going to stand with those who were besieged in Berlin, because that represented not just a cause for Berliners, as he said, but a cause for all people who wanted freedom. And that is why, as we are in this moment where the greatest threat to not only our national security but the world's security is posed by the regime in Iran, it is perhaps appropriate to rephrase that famous quote and send Man Irani Hastam. We say that because at the end of this debate, this is ultimately a moral issue. Treating other human beings as we would ourselves and we would want our family members to be treated. But today we heard principally about the political issue, the national security issue, the humanitarian issue wrapped up between the plight of the people of liberty and the plight of the world for a nuclear-free Iran. The two are inseparable. And so it is because of the sacrifice of the people of liberty that we are here today talking about this issue. And it is my good fortune today to announce some breaking news, all because of the sacrifice, the hunger strikers, not only in liberty but around the world, who have petitioned to raise the conscience of this world on the plight of those of their countrymen in Iran who are suffering every day. It's been because of those hunger strikers and because of the leadership of Madam Rajavi that this morning the National Court of Spain has announced a formal investigation into the Iraqi involvement of the massacre on September 1st of this year. Thank you, because your voices right now are echoing in the capital of the United States of America. And it's been because of the sacrifice of the people of liberty, formerly of Ashraf, that we are here today to say, in spite of the United States denial, in spite of the United States looking the other way while scores of your countrymen were murdered in spite of their being promised protection by the United States. In spite of all that, you have prevailed because the international reach under the Fourth Geneva Convention has moved a court, any court for that matter, has the prerogative, but a National Court of Spain has moved to formally investigate Faleh Al-Fayyad, the National Security Advisor for Nouri al-Maliki. And that means that we are going to get So, as we conclude this, as I've said at every opportunity I have been given to speak on this issue, silence is our biggest enemy. And if it weren't for the energy and the voice of the people of Liberty, formerly of Ashraf, if it weren't for the diaspora who have kept this fight going, there would continue to be silence in the wake of all of the situations you've heard discussed today. And if you we can no longer be ignorant of the facts. The facts have been presented. Now it's up to us to do the next right thing and stand up for this issue, not because it's an international security issue, and it couldn't be a more important international security issue, not because it's a legal issue, and it couldn't be a more important legal issue of the Fourth Geneva Convention, but ultimately because it's a moral issue, and we have an obligation to our common humanity to look after people who are being oppressed and tortured and murdered by the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and that's Iran. Let's keep up the fight. Thank you very much.